All right, so I'm going to talk about two different ways in which you might make a solution. So if a question asks you, or in a lab you're asked to make a solution, how would you actually go about doing that? Or how would you explain how to do that in a problem on a test or a quiz? So I'm giving you a scenario here, and our goal is to make 500 mils of 0.4 molar KOH. That's our goal. There's two different ways we can go about doing this. One is we can weigh out some solid KOH, so weigh out some grams, and dissolve it in water. And the other method is to, if we already have a solution of KOH that's more concentrated, we can take some of this solution and dilute it to make the concentration that we want. So we're going to talk about both methods. First method is using mass. Let's say you want to mass out some solid KOH, dissolve it in some water. So the question in this case is, how much KOH do I need? And remember, your molarity is moles over liters. I can write this out as a triangle. And I know that I want my molarity to be 0.40 molar. I want my volume to be 0.5 liters. So the one thing I don't know is moles. So what I can do to solve for moles, I can take my molarity times my volume, and that'll give me moles. So 0.4 molar times 0.5 liters, that will give me 0.2 moles of KOH. So what that means is, in order to make a solution of this volume, this concentration, I'm going to need 0.2 moles of KOH. Unfortunately, we don't have any mole measuring machines. What we can, if we want to measure out some KOH in a lab, we need to figure out how many grams that would be, and then we could weigh it out on a balance. So if we know moles, and we know the chemical formula, we should be able to convert moles into grams using our moles times molar mass gives us grams, if you remember that process that we've done before. So if I have 0.2 moles of KOH, I'm going to look up on the periodic table and say, well, how much does 1 mole of KOH weigh? So I'm going to look up, hydrogen is 1, oxygen is 16, potassium is 39.1. If you add those all up, you will find that 1 mole of KOH weighs 56.1 grams. So I need 0.2 moles of KOH, and the molar mass of KOH is 56.1 grams per mole. So if I multiply 0.2 times 56.1, I will end up with 11.2 grams. So what this means is, in order to make this solution in a lab, I would weigh out 11.2 grams of KOH, put it in a volumetric flask, which are the ones we've used in the lab before, look a little bit like this. I would place it in a volumetric flask, and I would add water until the final volume is 500 milliliters. So that's how I'd make a solution starting from solid. Let's talk about diluting. So if you want to dilute a solution, you can use this equation, M1V1 equals M2V2. And thinking about, sometimes I find it helps to draw this out. So M2V2, that's what I want my final thing to be. So I want my final molarity to be 0.4. I want my final volume to be 500 milliliters, so 0.5 liters. And I am going to start with an initial concentration of 6 molar. So what this means is I'm going to take some of my 6 molar solution, and then I'm going to add some water to it until I end up with 500 mils of 0.4 molar solution. So the thing that I'm solving for is my V, actually should be V1, right here. So my question is, how much of this 6 molar solution do I need to dilute down in order to get 500 mils of 0.4 molar solution? So if I go through and plug these values into this equation, I end up with 6 molar times V1 equals 0.4 molar times 0.5 liters. If I rearrange this and solve for V1, it will look a little bit like this. So V1 equals 0.4 times 0.5 divided by 6. And if you plug that in your calculator, you should get 0.033 liters. Convert that into milliliters, it's 33 milliliters. So what that means, if I had to describe what I would do, is I would take 33 mils of my concentrated 6.0 molar solution. And if you think about how we would typically measure this out, we'd probably use a graduated cylinder to measure out this volume. And then I would place it into one of these volumetric flasks, okay? And then I would add some water to my solution until it reached a total volume of 500 milliliters. So this is what you would actually do in a lab if you had to make this solution, or again, if you were asked to, you want to also be able to describe how you could possibly make a solution on a test or a quiz. So you want to be able to say what kind of glassware would you use, what are you measuring out, how much of it are you using.